Welcome to the Nucleus podcast. This week, we're looking at the global nuclear industry update for the week ending July 17th, 2026. Security incidents, major projects, fuel supply, faster licensing, and the increasingly urgent search for enough reliable electricity to power artificial intelligence and data centers.
And it is a revealing week because those themes are tightly connected. Nuclear is being asked to provide secure, low-carbon power at scale, but that brings questions about safety, regulation, financing, fuel, and delivery. The ambition is unmistakable. The practical challenge is turning ambition into operating capacity.
Let's begin with safety, because the headlines from South Africa initially sounded alarming. There were 3 contamination events at Coburg, Africa's only nuclear power station, on June 30th, July 2nd, and July 7th. What actually happened?
South Africa's nuclear regulator said the incidents involved elevated levels of airborne radioactive material inside the plant, but no radioactive material leaked into the environment. The events were contained within Coburg. That distinction is essential. Contamination inside a controlled facility must be investigated seriously, but it is not the same as an environmental release.
There was also a different kind of security concern in Switzerland, where at least 7 unidentified drones were seen near the Gösgen nuclear power plant at around 10:30 at night, prompting a large police response. And in Ukraine, Alexander Yakovlev, a senior engineer at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, was reportedly killed in a drone strike.
Yes. Russia described that alleged Ukrainian assassination in apocalyptic terms, warning of a nuclear apocalypse. Whatever the underlying facts or rhetoric, the wider point is that nuclear security now includes threats beyond conventional plant operations. Drones, targeted attacks, and geopolitical escalation all complicate the protection of critical infrastructure. Zaporizhzhia is Europe's largest nuclear facility, so any violence involving its personnel carries obvious significance.
The geopolitical temperature was high elsewhere too. The United States and Iran exchanged fire after previous arrangements broke down. Reports suggested President Trump was considering targeting Pickaxe Mountain, and satellite images were said to show Iran rebuilding nuclear facilities. Iran's Revolutionary Guard also said it had closed the Strait of Hormuz.
Those developments show how quickly civil nuclear, military strategy, energy security, and international trade can become entangled. They also provide context for another significant story. India and Australia have finalised the administrative arrangement required for Australian uranium exports to India under their nuclear cooperation agreement signed in 2014.
That sounds procedural, but commercially it could be very important.
It could. Administrative arrangements are often where high-level political agreements become capable of practical implementation. India has substantial nuclear ambitions. Its Shanti Bill set a goal of 100 gigawatts of nuclear capacity by 2047, and the country is preparing its largest ever nuclear island engineering, procurement and construction tender, a 2,800 megawatt project in Rajasthan valued at more than 28,000 crore rupees.
India also featured in that enormous Jharkhand announcement. The Naveen Jindal Group plans to invest more than 700 billion Indian rupees across steel, nuclear, and renewable energy projects, including 400 billion Indian rupees for steel, with more than 11,000 direct jobs expected.
That is a good example of nuclear being positioned as part of a broader industrial strategy rather than as a standalone power project. Steel, manufacturing capacity, jobs, and clean energy are being developed together. Southeast Asia's efforts to integrate building energy systems into regional power grids reflect a similar concern. Rapidly rising demand from industrialization, digitalization, and population growth must be met securely, affordably, and sustainably.
The United Kingdom stories have the same long-term flavour. Sizewell B is now expected to operate until 2055, 20 years longer than previously planned, under an agreement setting the terms for a 20-year contract for difference. Why does that matter?
Because extending an existing plant's life can preserve a substantial block of reliable generation, while newer capacity is developed. Sizewell B provides 1.2 gigawatts. Alongside that, AtkinsRéalis has secured a 5-year framework agreement to remain the civil works design partner for Sizewell C, signed directly with Sizewell C Limited.
And then there is the eye-catching proposal from SGE, an estimated £35 billion investment in 14 small modular reactors across 3 United Kingdom sites.
Yes, using GE Vernova Hitachi reactors. It is a major statement of intent, but the word proposal matters. Across the sector, there is a gap between announced capital, regulatory progress, construction, and actual electricity generation. One report noted that small modular reactors may not achieve meaningful deployment before at least 2030, while another suggested they could change the economics of nuclear power during the 2030s.
That tension runs through this entire update. Everyone wants the output, especially for artificial intelligence, but the physical system cannot appear instantly. Generator orders reportedly involve waits of more than 5 years. Natural gas power costs in the United States have reached a 17-year high. Meanwhile, data centers consumed about 448 terawatt-hours globally last year, with artificial intelligence responsible for 1/5 of that.
Precisely. That demand is now shaping legislation and investment. New Jersey has directed the state to pursue at least one advanced nuclear reactor with a minimum capacity of 1,100 megawatts. The proposed project has been valued at $15 billion, and the Power New Jersey Act creates a framework intended both to advance the project and protect ratepayers and the state's economic interests.
So there is a legal design problem, as well as an engineering one. How do you move quickly without asking consumers to absorb every possible risk?
Exactly. The contractual and regulatory structure determines who bears construction risk, delay risk, market risk, and cost escalation. The United States Nuclear Regulatory Commission is separately proposing a comprehensive update to its environmental review rules, narrowing reviews to effects within its statutory authority and creating more opportunities to streamline licensing. Faster licensing may help, but speed still has to produce decisions capable of supporting safe, financeable projects.
On delivery, there were tangible milestones. Egypt installed the reactor pressure vessel for the second unit at El Dabar. Deep Fission received a prototype reactor canister for its plan to place small modular pressurized water reactors in boreholes 1 mile underground. Arlo Atomics selected Rockwell Automation to provide the control platform for its critical test reactor.
And Curio appointed Sargent and Lundy to begin engineering and facility design for the process building at its nuclear fuel recycling facility, moving that technology towards commercial deployment. Hyundai Engineering and Construction also signed a framework agreement with First American Nuclear Company to cooperate on a United States small modular reactor project. These may sound less dramatic than a multi-billion-pound announcement, but procurement, design, and prototype milestones are where delivery starts becoming real.
Fuel is another constraint that feels increasingly central. TrissoX received an $11 million Tennessee Economic Development grant to expand its advanced nuclear fuel campus. Supercritical Materials secured an exclusive United States Department of Energy license to commercialize patented uranium and critical materials extraction technology.
And the enrichment market is under pressure from both geopolitics and demand. The update describes a structural deficit, disrupted pricing for separative work units, and the need to replace 27 million separative work units of restricted Russian capacity. Future reactors will also require low-enriched uranium plus and high-assay low-enriched uranium. In other words, reactor deployment depends on the fuel cycle developing alongside it.
South Korea's renewed push for uranium enrichment rights fits that picture. Non-proliferation policies are being reconsidered as South Korea and the United States pursue advanced nuclear technologies while trying to reduce dependence on supply chains dominated by geopolitical rivals.
Yes, and that is legally and politically delicate. Supply chain resilience, non-proliferation, and commercial competitiveness do not always point in the same direction. Any new arrangement must reconcile all three.
Before we close, two stories complicated the otherwise bullish narrative. Standard Nuclear fell on its New York Stock Exchange debut after reducing the size of its initial public offering, and NuScale Power was reported to be down 84% from its 52-week high. That seems like a useful corrective to the excitement.
It is. Strong demand for nuclear power does not guarantee strong returns for every nuclear company. Investors still distinguish between a compelling market thesis and a business that can finance, license, and deliver its technology. Even Finland's energy system research challenged nuclear assumptions, suggesting the country could build nearly 70 gigawatts of solar capacity that complements wind and may outcompete new nuclear power.
And existing reactors face physical constraints too. Unusually warm rivers and below-average rainfall across Western and Central Europe put pressure on the waterways used to cool French nuclear plants. So the week's lesson is not simply build more nuclear. It is build the right mix, secure the fuel, protect the sites, structure the financing, and account for climate and grid conditions.
That is the clear takeaway. Nuclear momentum is spreading from India and Australia to the United Kingdom, Egypt, South Korea, and the United States, driven heavily by energy security, industrial policy, and data center demand. But security events, fuel constraints, regulatory execution, and difficult capital markets remain material. Thank you for listening. This week, the industry felt data center-centric and cautiously ambitious. Overall sentiment was positive. See you in the next one.